There's no doubt that TF2 has a lot of different weapons that open up countless different playstyles, and regardless of how good or bad certain weapons may be, one thing that is consistent across the game's design is that the weapons in TF2 look really nice. In some cases, certain weapons may look so sleek or cool that you may be enticed to use them solely based on looks, while others may fit closer to the game's retro spy tech and cartoonish art style based on those seen throughout the 60s and 70s. So I thought it would be fun to look at TF2's weaponry and determine which weapons have the best design in terms of looks and aesthetics. Before we get started, I just wanted to lay down a couple of rules. The first is that weapons will be judged solely based on appearance, not functionality. A weapon may be worse than others in its league, but if I think it looks nice, it's going on the list. The second rule is that weapon reskins are allowed, and it may seem unfair to put them in a video like this, but for this list, looks are everything. And it probably goes without saying, but this list will be mostly personal, so let me know in the comments if you agree with any of the weapons I chose for this video, and feel free to let me know which weapons you would put in this category as well. Anyway, let's get into which weapons in TF2 I think look the best. Of all the classes in the game, Demo has some of the greatest looking weapons in my opinion. His grenade launchers are all super sleek, and his swords have a super menacing yet fitting look to them. But as far as his secondaries go, one has truly peak weapon design. The Quickie Bomb Launcher is a weapon that just screams perfection in terms of modeling and looks. The black and off-white portions of the weapon have a nice contrast to each other, and combined with the wood grips and stock, they give the Quickie Bomb Launcher a clean, refined look. Also, the black belt-looking strap along the bottom and the various buttons seen throughout the weapon give the gun an almost wintry vibe, which might make some sense given when it was released. And for some weird reason, I just love the look of the grip for the reloading mechanism. It reminds me of something like a hand mixer or an espresso machine. But overall, it just helps to give the Quickie Bomb Launcher a unique feature not seen in Demo's other launchers. I might be super biased calling the Quickie Bomb Launcher one of TF2's greatest looking weapons, since it's also my favorite weapon for Demo, but even if I am, you can't deny that the colors and textures seen on the gun, combined with the strap and button accents, help make the Quickie Bomb Launcher stand out in terms of design among Demo's other weapons, and heck, most of the other weapons in the game. Okay, since we're talking about the best weapon designs that the game offers, it'd be criminal not to mention Medic. His weapons are some of the best looking ones among the 9 classes weaponry, and his base medigun is also one of the cleanest looking and most iconic weapons in the game. But in particular, one specific medigun looks the best, and that title goes to the Quick Fix. To me, it drives home the more inventive and experimenting side to Medic's character, since the Quick Fix is basically just made up of parts he probably had lying around in the lab. I mean, look at the front of the Quick Fix, it's literally just a blender, and it even sounds like one too. I think the Quick Fix is Medic's best looking weapon due to the homemade and prototype nature of the gun, driving home that feeling that the 9 mercenaries, especially Medic, can really only get the job done using the equipment they have direct access to, which in this case is a healing ray made of kitchen appliances. I really like the more archaic and rudimentary design of the Quick Fix above all of his other mediguns. The wires, open portions of the model, and overall prototype nature of the Quick Fix really make it feel like the most TF2-esque weapon that Medic has. Okay, so do you guys know those LEGO 1x2 tiles and 2x2 slope pieces that look like control panels or control stations? Because those are my favorite parts of every LEGO set I owned growing up. So whenever I use the Quick Fix, I see that little display on the side and think, oh hell yeah. I know they don't really do anything since they're purely cosmetic, but they just add another layer of neat character to an already great looking medigun. I'd also like to give a quick mention to the Vaccinator for one-upping the Quick Fix in this regard, since look at its display on the side. Like, that is so satisfying. So were the TF2 devs LEGO fans back in the day or something? Personally, my favorite types of weapons in terms of design are the ones that are inspired by or directly tied to a class's personality or character, like what we've seen with the Medic's Quick Fix. Scout is another good example of a class's weapon design in this regard, and he has one weapon that's a great extension of his character, the Sandman. Sure, Scout does have his stock bat, which helps hammer down his more athletic and sporty personality, but I think the Sandman really hits that weapon design out of the park. I mean, take one look at the Sandman and you'll see that it's another great example of peak weapon design. Well, at least physically. Use it for even one round in casual and you'll just be sad. But everything else about the Sandman is perfection. The texturing, the details on the bat itself like the Sandman logo, and the baseball that makes that satisfying when you alt-fire all culminate together to make a truly satisfying weapon to look at. And it'd be a shame not to mention the sound that plays when you hit someone with the baseball. That alone tips the Sandman's satisfying to use level over the edge. But as I joked about earlier, the Sandman's less than ideal weapon stats make it harder to use effectively and can also help explain why you hardly ever see it in game. Even so, it can still be fun to sometimes use the Sandman only to appreciate the work that went into its overall design. Even with the hiccups that come with using the Sandman in your typical match, its good looks and satisfying mechanics firmly give it a spot on this list. Okay, so the Pyro's fire axe when festivized reminds me of the Happy Tree Slayer from Pixel Gun 3D, and that's the only reason I put it on this list. That's about all I've got to say about it. If you've played Pixel Gun, then you know that the festivized fire axe has the most goated weapon design just by being so similar in looks to the Happy Tree Slayer. Now, I'm not afraid to admit this, but I don't play a lot of Spy. He's never really been one of my favorite classes, both to play and fight against, and his playstyle isn't something I'm too eager to try out all the time. But once in a while, I am tempted to get a juicy chain stab or two, so sometimes I'll give him a go. And when I do play Spy, there's one knife I always use simply just because I think it looks awesome, and that would be the Sharp Dresser. Objectively, out of all the weapons I'm showcasing today, I think this is by far the coolest one. I mean, just look at it. It's a blade that pops out of Spy's sleeve, and both the animation and sound that play when you draw the Sharp Dresser are just, oh, they're so good. And yeah, while the Sharp Dresser is a reskin, it's also a promotional item being unlocked as a reward for pre-ordering Assassin's Creed Revelations. So it might seem a bit cheap to include it on this list, but come on, look at it. It's the epitome of cool. I don't care what you say. Actually, yes I do. I hope you're enjoying the video. Now, Heavy is one of my favorite classes to play, and as I play him more and more, I've grown to appreciate the design that went into each of his weapons. They've always had an overall nice look to them, but in terms of weapon design though, there's one that stands above the rest. And unfortunately, it's also the most rare and expensive one to obtain. The Iron Curtain is personally my favorite looking weapon in Heavy's arsenal, with its sleek, dark metal and wood aesthetic. I also love how this part of the gun looks like a furnace. It's a nice touch. And the part that stands out the most to me is the front of the Iron Curtain's barrel. It's got an interesting octagonal shape with these bolts littered throughout, and I think it looks really nice. But if you're unfortunate enough to not already own the Iron Curtain, getting one is a difficult process that'll cost you an arm and a leg. Since it's an achievement item and the game you obtain it from got taken down from Steam, the only way to get the Iron Curtain is to buy a copy of Poker Night at the Inventory from someone who already owns it, and then play the game enough to unlock the achievement where you finally get the Iron Curtain as your reward. It's just such a lengthy process, but I will say, if you're willing to spend a heap of cash on a copy of Poker Night and have just enough patience, the Iron Curtain may be a good investment. It has such a clean design that all that work can be worth it just to get this rare minigun. Speaking of sleek-looking weapons with a metal and wooden finish, the Frontier Justice is right alongside the Iron Curtain in terms of being a great-looking weapon with those features, and is also the last weapon in today's list. I mean, what's there not to love about the design of the Frontier Justice? It's got a snazzy wood stock and pump, a finely detailed metal engraving, and what's that I see? Control panel, my beloved? There's honestly not too much else to say about the Frontier Justice's design. It's a super sleek shotgun that has the right balance of subtle detail and personal flair. One thing I will mention, however, is that I honestly sometimes prefer the regular design of the Frontier Justice over its Australian variant. Now, the Australian Frontier Justice is a nice looking gun in its own right, but personally, I sometimes prefer the gunmetal gray and wood brown color scheme of its original design. It feels more grounded in Engineer's arsenal, yet its Australian variant can sometimes be a fun way to show off some extra color and intimidation with your loadout. Either way, the Frontier Justice has a very nice design for a shotgun, and everything about it just works. Australian or not, I think we can all agree that at the very least, the Frontier Justice has a solid design overall. So it's definitely safe to say that TF2 does have a ton of great looking weapons. After taking a closer look at each and every one of them, these were some of the best looking and most aesthetically pleasing ones that the game offers, in my opinion. In terms of TF2's art style and overall vibe, these weapons truly demonstrate the best physical weapon design, and in general, they just look cool. But I'm curious to see what weapons you guys consider the best or coolest looking, so let me know down in the comments which ones you'd pick, and let me know what you thought of the ones I chose for my own list. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.